In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the world was undergoing a significant transformation. The Industrial Revolution had brought about a massive shift in the way goods were produced, and with it, a new era of industrialization and urbanization. As people moved from rural areas to cities in search of work, they found themselves facing long hours and poor working conditions. It was against this backdrop that the 8-hour workday revolution began to take shape. The idea of an 8-hour workday was not new, but it was not until the early 20th century that it gained significant traction. The movement was led by labor unions and social reformers who argued that workers deserved a fair day's pay for a fair day's work, and that this could only be achieved through a reduction in working hours. The labor movement in the United States and Europe had been gaining momentum since the mid-19th century. Workers were organizing and demanding better pay, improved working conditions, and greater rights. The 8-hour workday was a key demand of the labor movement, and it was seen as a way to improve the lives of workers and their families. One of the key figures in the early years of the labor movement was Robert Owen, a Welsh textile manufacturer who believed in the importance of providing his workers with good working conditions and a fair wage. Owen's ideas influenced a generation of labor leaders and social reformers, who continued to push for improvements in working conditions and workers' rights. One of the most significant figures in the history of the 8-hour workday was Henry Ford, the founder of the Ford Motor Company. Ford was a pioneer of the automobile industry, and his innovative production methods and management techniques helped to transform the way goods were produced. In 1914, Ford introduced the 8-hour workday at his factory in Detroit, Michigan. The move was seen as a radical experiment, but it proved to be a huge success. Ford's workers were paid a higher wage than usual, and they were given more leisure time to enjoy their newfound prosperity. The 8-hour workday at Ford's factory became a model for other industries, and it helped to establish the 8-hour workday as a standard feature of modern employment. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 had a significant impact on the labor movement and the 8-hour workday. Many workers were called up to fight, and those who remained in the factories and mills were required to work long hours to meet the demand for war materials. The war effort created a sense of national emergency, and many of the labor movement's demands were put on hold. However, the war also created new opportunities for labor leaders to push for improvements in working conditions and workers' rights. The 8-hour workday became a key demand of the labor movement during the war years, and it was seen as a way to improve the lives of workers and their families. The Russian Revolution of 1917 had a significant impact on the labor movement and the 8-hour workday. The Bolsheviks, who came to power in Russia, were committed to the principles of socialism and the improvement of working conditions. The Russian Revolution inspired labor leaders around the world, and it helped to create a sense of international solidarity among workers. The 8-hour workday became a key demand of the labor movement in the aftermath of the Russian Revolution, and it was seen as a way to improve the lives of workers and their families. The influence of the Russian Revolution can be seen in the labor movements of many countries, including the United States, where the 8-hour workday became a central demand of the labor movement. Labor unions played a crucial role in the fight for the 8-hour workday. Unions such as the American Federation of Labor, AFL, and the Congress of Industrial Organizations, CIO, were instrumental in organizing workers and pushing for improvements in working conditions. The unions used a variety of tactics, including strikes, boycotts, and negotiations, to achieve their goals. The 8-hour workday was a key demand of the labor unions, and they worked tirelessly to achieve it. The unions also played a crucial role in educating workers about their rights and the benefits of the 8-hour workday. The Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, of 1938 was a landmark piece of legislation that established the 8-hour workday as a federal standard. The FLSA was signed into law by President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and it marked a significant victory for the labor movement. The law established a minimum wage, overtime pay, and child labor protections, in addition to the 8-hour workday. The FLSA has been amended several times since its passage, but it remains a cornerstone of labor law in the United States. The 8-hour workday has become a standard feature of modern employment, and it is widely recognized as a fundamental right of workers. The 8-hour workday has had a significant impact on society. It has improved the lives of workers and their families, and it has helped to create a more balanced and sustainable work-life balance. The 8-hour workday has also had a positive impact on the economy, as it has helped to increase productivity and reduce turnover. However, the 8-hour workday has also been criticized for being too rigid and inflexible. Some argue that it does not take into account the needs of modern workers, who may require more flexibility and autonomy in their work schedules. Despite these criticisms, the 8-hour workday remains a widely accepted standard, and it continues to be a key demand of the labor movement. The 8-hour workday has evolved significantly since its introduction. With the rise of technology and the changing nature of work, many workers are now required to work non-traditional hours or to be constantly connected to their jobs. The 8-hour workday has had to adapt to these changes, and it has become more flexible and nuanced. Some companies have introduced flexible work arrangements, such as telecommuting or compressed workweeks, to help workers balance their work and personal lives. The 8-hour workday has also become more complex, with many workers required to work overtime or to be on call. Despite its widespread acceptance, the 8-hour workday has faced several challenges in recent years. One of the main challenges is the rise of the gig economy, which has created a new class of workers who are not entitled to the same benefits and protections as traditional employees. The gig economy has also created new challenges for labor unions, which have struggled to organize and represent these workers. Another challenge to the 8-hour workday is the increasing demand for flexibility and autonomy in the workplace. Many workers are now seeking more control over their work schedules and more flexibility in their work arrangements. The future of the 8-hour workday is uncertain. With the rise of automation and artificial intelligence, many jobs are at risk of being replaced by machines. This has created a new challenge for labor leaders and policymakers, who must find ways to protect workers and ensure that they are able to adapt to the changing job market. The 8-hour workday may need to be reimagined in the context of a rapidly changing world of work. Some experts argue that the 8-hour workday is no longer relevant, and that workers should be given more flexibility and autonomy in their work schedules. Others argue that the 8-hour workday remains a fundamental right of workers, and that it should be protected and strengthened. The 8-hour workday has a rich and complex history, and its impact on society has been significant. From its early beginnings in the labor movement to its current status as a widely accepted standard, the 8-hour workday has evolved significantly over time. As we move forward in an increasingly complex and rapidly changing world of work, it is clear that the 8-hour workday will continue to play a critical role in shaping the lives of workers and their families. In the next part of our documentary, we will explore the challenges and opportunities facing the 8-hour workday in the modern era, and we will examine the ways in which it is being reimagined and redefined for the 21st century. In 1894, the Pullman Company of Illinois dramatically reduced workers' wages while keeping rents fixed in their company town. This sparked a nationwide railroad strike as workers refused to operate trains without pay. The American Railway Union, led by Eugene Debs, saw over 300,000 workers walk out. President Grover Cleveland sent federal troops to break the strike, arresting Debs himself. The violent suppression became a defining moment that galvanized the emerging labor movement across America. The campaign for an 8-hour workday gained momentum through the efforts of labor organizer Robert Owen, who first proposed the concept in 1817. His famous slogan 8 hours labor, 8 hours recreation, 8 hours rest resonated with workers worldwide. In America, the movement found powerful expression through the International Workingmen's Association. By the 1880s, craft unions began organizing strikes demanding shorter hours, with the Federation of Organized Trades and Labor Union formally adopting the 8-hour day as their goal for May 1, 1886. May 4, 1886, became known as Haymarket Day when tens of thousands of workers gathered in Chicago's Haymarket Square demanding an 8-hour workday. A bomb exploded during a police rally, killing 7 officers and injuring hundreds. 4 labor leaders were executed, and 2 more died in prison. The tragedy transformed May Day into an international workers' holiday. The Haymarket Martyrs became symbols of the struggle for workers' rights and shorter hours. Henry Ford made history in 1914 by implementing the $5 day, doubling his workers' wages while reducing the workday from 9 to 8 hours. His Detroit factory became a model of industrial efficiency and worker satisfaction. Ford believed that happy workers produced better products, and his innovation sparked a wage increase movement across American industry. The Model T assembly line demonstrated how productivity gains could benefit both employers and employees. The Great Depression created urgency for federal labor protections. In 1938, President Franklin Roosevelt signed the Fair Labor Standards Act, establishing the first federal 8-hour workday standard for covered workers. The law also set minimum wage requirements and prohibited most child labor. While initially limited in scope, the legislation provided crucial legal foundations for workers' rights and became a cornerstone of modern labor law. Before the 8-hour day became universal, the Railway Labor Act of 1926 established crucial precedents for collective bargaining in transportation industries. This legislation required airlines and railroads to negotiate with workers' representatives rather than simply imposing changes unilaterally. The Act's framework influenced later labor legislation and demonstrated how federal policy could support organized labor in achieving reasonable work schedules. Women entered the workforce in unprecedented numbers during World War II, bringing new perspectives to the 8-hour day campaign. Working mothers faced particular challenges balancing longer hours with family responsibilities. The movement for shorter workdays gained significant momentum among female workers who organized through unions like the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. Their advocacy helped ensure that work-life balance considerations became central to labor negotiations. The 8-hour workday movement became truly international through the Second International, formed in 1889. Socialist leaders from Europe, America, and Asia coordinated May Day celebrations to advance workers' rights globally. The movement influenced labor laws in countries from Germany to Japan, though implementation varied widely. International labor standards eventually became a focus of the League of Nations and later the United Nations, creating global frameworks for worker protections. As America shifted from manufacturing to service industries in the late 20th century, the 8-hour workday took on new meaning. White-collar workers in offices, banks, and retail faced different challenges than their industrial predecessors. The rise of computer technology and flexible scheduling options began reshaping traditional workday structures. Service sector unions adapted their strategies to address new workplace realities while maintaining pressure for reasonable hours and fair compensation. The 21st century brought new challenges to the 8-hour workday ideal through the rise of gig economy platforms. Workers in ride-sharing, delivery, and freelance services often face unpredictable schedules and income instability. Traditional labor protections haven't kept pace with these new work arrangements. However, recent legislation in states like California has begun addressing worker classification and rights for independent contractors, showing how the 8-hour day movement continues to evolve. State legislatures across America have implemented varying 8-hour workday standards for different industries. California, New York, and several other states have enacted laws protecting workers in specific sectors. However, federal coverage remains incomplete, with many workers still excluded from overtime protections. Court decisions and political changes have repeatedly tested the boundaries of these protections. Each victory and setback in the legislative arena shapes how millions of workers experience their daily schedules. Today, the 8-hour workday remains an aspirational goal for many workers worldwide. While not universally achieved, the movement has fundamentally changed how society views work-life balance. Modern debates over remote work, flexible schedules, and the 4-day workweek show how the original 8-hour campaign continues to inspire new generations of labor activists. The legacy lives on in every worker who expects reasonable hours and fair compensation for their labor.